NFSA.org. Wayne, we've got breaking news for you right now. I just saw it on the Twitter, and it's with a blue check mark.
We didn't break it either.
We didn't break it.
We broke out.
The Vikings have just tweeted that they've reached a multi-year contract extension with their coach, Kevin O'Connell. So I guess the trade that everybody was talking about is not going to happen now.
Yeah.
One of the sillier memes, or one of the sillier things floating around the NFL this year, was that the Vikings were going to trade their coach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there was something about Tomlin also in Pittsburgh. They were rumoring about that happening, and he put a stop to that about a week ago. Said, "No, I'm not going anywhere." So,
right. Kevin O'Connell gets the extension. He is going to be in Minnesota for a while, coming off a great year with a bad finish. And then the Bears have their new coach. What do you think about Ben Johnson moving over from Detroit to Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know what Ben Johnson is and can do as an offensive coordinator. What you never know about these guys, Drew, is how will they be as head coaches? And, I go back, I was with the Bears in 1992, and they had fired Mike Ditka, and the hottest name out there was the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator under Jimmy Johnson, Dave Wanstead. And the Bears were able to get that deal done, and everyone thought that was going to be just outstanding. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't a total bust by any means. Wanstead's a good coach, but he was a better coordinator than a head coach. I think his career proves that.
You know something, Wayne, we were talking about this yesterday, and I'm feeling really good about Green Bay in this division. And this is why. Number one, Detroit is back on their heels. Everybody is they're going to lose a ton of people to free agency. I did get a text from Bob, the Bears fan, who said that George McCaskey was in on the hiring of the new head coach. So that'll go sideways. And you've got Sam Darnold over in Minnesota, who absolutely craps his socks, and all they got is J.J. McCarty. And I'm feeling really good about Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Hey, you're right. Let's start with the top, okay? Detroit, the way they've crashed and burned. I've been saying all along it's their year, and it was their year. And you know what happens with teams when you've got that window, you damn well better win. And they can say, well, we had all these injuries and all these guys are going to be back. No, it's going to be different. You're not going to have your defensive coordinator. You don't have your offensive coordinator. You've got, as KB, as you mentioned, there are free agents. Every team, minimum 25% of a team goes by the wayside because of free agency, player movement, that type of thing. So this is going to be very different. And will the Lions keep that window open? Boy, that's going to be hard to do for them. Look what happened to San Francisco, because last year was their year, and they crashed and burned in the Super Bowl in overtime to Patrick Mahomes. And, that's hard to come back from. Minnesota, I'm with you. They're not going to sign Sam Darnold. Not after those last two games, they're not. But and you'll start with essentially a rookie quarterback there. And the Bears, it's going to take. They're not going to be. It's not going to happen overnight. If it does happen, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, Caleb Williams will probably benefit greatly from this new head coach, but all the pieces in place, I don't know. I still think the Bears are going to be better than they were this past year, but by no means do I think this division is as good as it was top to bottom a year ago.
I think the problem with the Bears is Caleb Williams and his attitude, because he comes out and he says, I need this coach. I need this. You know what? No.
Just play, sir.
Just go play. You were the number one overall pick. Go play the game like you're supposed to. Not, I need a younger coach to. No. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Well, to the Vikings, as for the Vikings, Wayne, it's not like a rookie quarterback's going to take a team to the NFC Championship game. Oh, wait.
Where did that happen?
What a story that is. It's unbelievable. We'll get to that momentarily. But Wayne, one of the things we've been kicking around today is Chiefs fatigue. People get tired of seeing the Chiefs and they're rooting against them. And there's the Taylor Swift aspect of that we can put to the side. But the perception is that Mahomes is getting all the calls and that the Chiefs get all the calls and that the league has their thumb on the scale for the Chiefs. And we don't like to hear it, but people used to say that about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers a lot, especially our neighbors here, our divisional neighbors. And I'm just wondering, what's your take when you hear people say that? They said it for years about Brady getting every call, and KB said all those phantom DPIs at the end of games that would help him out. What's your take when you hear that? When you hear people say that there's a conspiracy and that the league is in the tank for a team or a player?
I think good teams get all the breaks. And part of that is they make those breaks. You know what I mean? Good teams, yeah. You think they're getting all the breaks, but actually they're just better than you. That's all. Kansas City is an interesting story. I'm really anxious to see what they do in this next game because all season long they've looked fine. They won 15 out of 16 or 17 games, 16-1, whatever it was. 15-2 because they threw away the Broncos game in the end. They didn't play anybody. That's fine. So they do that, and they get a win in the playoff game last week, and you expect that. Now they've got Buffalo, a team that did beat them legitimately in the regular season. Let's see what happens in the postseason. But the Chiefs are a team, they just seem to know how much to do to win on a given Sunday. And I'll go back to what Rudy Tomjanovich said many decades ago when he had the Houston Rockets winning back-to-back titles when Jordan retired. He said, never underestimate the heart of a champion. And that's the thing you've got to think about with Kansas City.
It's interesting. We're talking to Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Packers here, Drew and KB. I see teams, and we talked a little bit about this with Aaron Nagler yesterday, is that the NFL season's so long and it's so hard to win. And we invest so much week to week analyzing the league that we don't see the big picture. The Rams were 1-4 to start the season. They were going to trade everybody at the deadline and rebuild, and McVay was going to go off and announce or do something else and get out of coaching. And then there they are playing for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. And Philadelphia had some drama this year. Sirianni yelling at people and like AJ Brown unhappy and stuff. And look where they're rolling around. And it's just, I look at, to your point, champions, the heart of a champion. I consider the Ravens one of the best teams, and they just can't get over the hump. And Lamar, in big moments, they say he can't get it done because a guy dropped a pass that he should have caught. It's such a fascinating thing, and that's why we love this league so much, is because their teams are so close, and it's just a razor's edge margin between everybody.
And you're so right about that, Drew. And I'm sitting there the other night watching Lamar, and that's my thought on Lamar. I think Lamar is great. And he's going to get you a lot of wins in the regular season, but he's going to get you to the playoffs and get you beat. But I have to amend that thought because what he did down the stretch in that game in Buffalo, he picked up that team. He got them into the end zone. He put the ball right where it had to be to the tight end, and he dropped it. And by the way, that same tight end, who's one of the best in the business, don't get me wrong, one of the best in business, he dropped a pass on the goal line to tie the game against the Packers about 3 years ago when the Ravens had nothing. And it wasn't Lamar at quarterback. I think it was Huntley or somebody like that at quarterback. And, so the point being this, yeah, we have this narrative that Lamar can't get a team across the finish line. All I saw him do in that Buffalo game was get the team across the finish line. The team just didn't go with him. And, that's going to be interesting to see how that all breaks down. Buffalo, they're an interesting story because remember all the dialogue in the offseason, well, Diggs is gone and this guy's gone, and they had to cut all these people. And everyone was wondering, what the heck are they doing? Here they are in the AFC title game with a real shot at Kansas City. So you just don't know. And here's the other thing I thought a lot about, guys, and it really pertains to the Packers. I don't know if you're in control of how well you play. You know what I mean? And this, hear me out on this. I think biorhythms are involved here somehow. But, you get playing well, as the Packers were. You go into this game against New Orleans. They don't have anybody healthy, and they're playing a preseason roster. You go out, you beat them, as you should, by a large number. But you notice that maybe the offense, the quarterback was just a little bit off. He wasn't hitting his receivers where they needed to be hit, and the things you could see, things were breaking down a little bit. And then against Minnesota, that game, and then the final game against Chicago in the regular season, then you go to Philadelphia. So, it's funny how these teams, it's hard to get your team to play well at the right time of year. I don't know how much control anybody has over that.
That's a good point. And Wayne, the perception of Jalen Hurts is that I guess he has good moments, bad moments, but he's presiding over a winning outfit right now. Very well could go to the Super Bowl and win it. I could see them doing that, but would he win it without that defense, without Saquon and that offensive line? Could he do that? Could he do what, Josh Allen and others are asked to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not sure.
They're going to have to ride Saquon Barkley. I mean, he had 206 yards the other night. They're going to have to ride him, I think, because I don't know if they trust their passing game right now. And they've got good people, don't get me wrong. And Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, but I don't know if they really trust it right now. What they do best is behind that big offensive line, run the football.
That is a scary line. That is a scary offensive line. Let me ask you this question about Kansas City. And Patrick Mahomes, 7 years in the league, 7 AFC championship games, 3 rings. Now, hot take hump day here is always on Wednesday, but I'm going to throw this one at you. Number one, I think that is probably one of the most impressive streaks in the history of the National Football League. And number two, over the finishing part of his career, if Patrick Mahomes should somehow tie Tom Brady in Super Bowl wins, he becomes the GOAT. And I'll tell you why, because he rattled off 7 in a row in his first 7 years in the league. That's mind-blowing.
Brady did something similar like that. You're exactly right, KB. I'm thinking right now, there's Brady, okay? And then who's next? I think it's Mahomes. I mean, he's better than Rodgers at his best.
Yep.
You know, Rodgers at his best got one Super Bowl, right? I'm not
than
with Aaron Rodgers at all. I'm just saying, you know, when you look at quarterbacks are judged on postseason triumphs, okay? They really are in the end. You know, do they get to the postseason? They win in the postseason, that kind of thing. Patrick Mahomes, next to Brady, you tell me who in our recent lifetime has, you know, that much going for them in terms of wins.
And comebacks. And comebacks,
wins. Clutch, yeah.
Well,
the thing is with that, KB, is when Kelsey retires and Andy Reid retires and he's on the back end of his career, what's it going to look like?
They'll find something.
Because what did Belichick look like when Brady exited that stage, right? It's like it's a right place, right time thing to me in some ways. And Josh Allen's the perfect example. Like what's his window right now? People have been saying for years he was due, and he's toned down his kind of wild streak of putting the ball at risk, and he's playing a little bit, you know, like people were saying, Jordan Love's not taking chances. Well, Josh Allen isn't taking the chances that he took a couple years ago, and maybe it'll pay off, maybe not. Come Sunday, we'll find out. But he's ready to take a team to the Super Bowl. Are the Bills ready to go with him? And can they get past the Chiefs to do it? That's a lot of factors in that equation.
Here's the other thing, you know, you got to look at, and this is interesting because when you're in a dynasty age, as we are, I mean, how many times did the Patriots deny somebody a Super Bowl? Well, I'm just reading this book by Mike Silver, and he's talking extensively about what happened in 2016 to Atlanta. They get to the Super Bowl, and they're up 28-3 in the fourth quarter, and they somehow lose the game. And it's Brady and the Patriots who take it from them. I saw Michael Jordan and the Bulls knock out a Utah team, Stockton and Malone, 2 years in a row. And Stockton and Malone were good enough to win it all. There were a lot of teams that were good enough to win it all, and they didn't because Jordan was the roadblock. Patrick Mahomes, how many teams, you know, Cincinnati has had Super Bowl caliber teams. You know, how many times is Patrick Mahomes going to knock these guys out? Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, year after year it happens. And those teams I'm talking about that lost to Patrick Mahomes and company, they were good enough to win it all, but they didn't. And they're going up against a dynasty. And that's the hardest part because there's an aura about championship teams. There's something about them, guys. It's an intangible. No one will admit it, but there is. And when you go up against a world championship team, a team with multiple championships, let's put it that way, you're going up against a lot more than just the Jimmies and Joes and X's and O's.
Well, and this Chiefs dynasty, one guy they never mentioned is the GM, Beach.
Yep.
You hold the team together for 7 years. That's impressive.
But
impressive.
You know who picked the quarterback?
Yep.
John
Dorsey.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And that's good. They should build a statue to him outside of Arrowhead.
No
stadium
but yeah. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. It's going to be a great weekend. I mean, legacies are made at this time of year. Jared Goff shrunk a little bit. Lamar shrunk only a little bit. And that's enough when the margins are this tight and you're not at your best. See you next year.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. Maybe. That's just it. Yeah, maybe. Wayne, thank you for joining us. Always a treat.
Talk to you next soon, guys. Take care.
All right.
Thanks, Wayne.